Yeah, so I'm not going to blow rainbows up your ass, guys. I'm going to give it to you straight. This is probably the saddest and most depressing movie that I've seen in a long time. They basically took every sad and depressing trope in the horror genre that you can possibly think of outside of torturing puppies in this movie and then just tossed it into a blender and made me drink it for an hour and 45 minutes. Yet they also somehow executed it in a way that at times did impress me, but at the same time didn't really surprise me at all either. So anyways, guys, hold on to your butts because it is now time to unpack the sheer sadness that they are marketing as a movie called Bring Her Back. And I'm just going to rip off the Band-Aid really quick. This isn't necessarily a bad movie. The execution of the story, really phenomenal. The acting from Billy Barrett, Sally Hawkins, and Sora Wong, really top-notch stuff. Even the practical effects, nasty and very realistic at times. But with that said, just as far as the story and the concept of this movie, I mean, there's a lot of recycled content in this movie that we've seen many times before, which makes a lot of the stuff in this movie very predictable for me. And also, I mean, come on, Danny and Michael, is the word fun not something you guys have ever heard of before? I mean, I get it. There's a moment in the movie where people are drinking and dancing and having all of that. But I also feel like there's, while that's happening, there's also this eeriness. You can't enjoy it because you know something is coming. It's like when I was younger trying to play just one more game of Halo 2 when I knew I had a shit ton of homework still left to do and it was getting late. It was like I'm enjoying myself, but at the same time, there's this monkey on my back that's kind of ruining this moment here a little bit. So yeah, in this movie, any moment of really like levity or just an inkling of joy, you just can't enjoy because you know something bad is building and coming very soon. And there's a big part of this movie that does feel like to me that before writing this script and conceiving this idea for this story, they just kind of threw on a bunch of iconic or just the saddest, bleakest movies that they possibly could that they would think would be inspiration for this movie. And then they just ended up copying and pasting a bunch of that stuff and then throwing it into this movie. Now, I know making a movie nowadays that's very unique or even something we've never seen before is damn near impossible. I get that. I mean, movies have been around now since 2025 for a very long time at this point. This isn't the 60s. This isn't the 70s. Hell, it's not even the 80s where you could make something that was truly unique that nobody had seen before. You can still do that. But I get that, yes, it is very hard to make something unique, but I did feel like it was kind of like, hey, what's the saddest stuff you've ever seen? All right, let's do that. And I don't think there's really any way I can talk about this movie really in depth or in an interesting way without talking about spoilers. So guys, yes, there will be spoilers in this video. You have been warned. Now, with that said, there is nothing worse than a movie that makes you feel absolutely nothing. I can't even count how many times I've seen a movie and then considered talking about it on this channel, but I just can't come up with just even an inkling of motivation to talk about that movie because it was just so unbelievably bland. There really is nothing worse than a movie that doesn't fall on either end of the spectrum, either really bad or really good or really dark or really happy. And I get a lot of people love movies that kind of just fit into the middle. There's kind of just fillers they can put on in the background while they're doing laundry. They don't really have to pay attention to. I get that angle of it. But to me, just to talk about this movie, I mean, I do enjoy movies that are very dark, that are very bleak. And a lot of movies that I think are masterpieces are full of some horrible shit. I mean, not every movie needs to be like Tommy Boy or something like that. Like I can enjoy movies that are really dark if they are done really, really well. So again, the fact that this movie is bleak and is overall pretty miserable is not really the reason why I'm going to be criticizing a lot of stuff in this movie. I mean, come on, I'm a big horror fan. I mean, yeah, I would say I typically embrace dark and miserable shit from time to time. And definitely one thing that this movie does really, really well is it shows you what grief and loss, especially of a loved one, of a child, what that will do to you. Like the lengths you will go to overcome that or feel better or kind of reverse time in a little bit of a way. And we see that as this unfolds. And I think they really show that in this movie. Like I said, some of the stuff, not all that unique or all that new or all that fresh, but still, I think there are some things in that regard that they executed really well. And also, there is no denying that Bring Her Back really does go for it. I mean, they take a swing in this movie, and I always respect that. Movies have this unique ability, and it's one of the only art form kind of mediums that have this just really incredible ability to make us feel so much empathy for a situation or something just unfolding on the screen that does happen in real life. Not necessarily all of the supernatural stuff and all of that, but some of the stuff we do see in this movie with the foster care stuff, the abuse, the trauma, the sense of loss, all of that. So if you are a person who has never been on that journey before, movies like this do have that just unique ability to take you through that journey with these people and really feel just like the heart-wrenching, soul-crushing aspect of it. So yeah, it feels like at times this movie's entire goal is just to make you feel really, really pissed, anxious, heartbroken, all of those different emotions. So I don't know, maybe if you're going through something right now yourself personally, maybe this movie after watching it will really like help you turn things around and get back on the right track, or maybe it will just send you spiraling darker and darker. Honestly, I don't really know, but just something to kind of keep in mind because this movie is super bleak and overall just depressing, obviously, if you couldn't tell from how I've already started this video. So again, guys, just a reminder, there will be spoilers in this video. So early on in this movie, especially in the first half, really not a lot happens. It's kind of similar to Talk to Me in that way, the only other movie that Danny and Michael have directed as well. But we're kind of getting to know our characters. We've got Andy and Piper. Andy, they're step siblings. Andy is about 17 years old. Piper's a little bit younger. And immediately with Piper's character in particular, I mean, she can't see very well. She's not technically blind. She can see shapes and colors, especially when they're closer to her. I'm just sitting in my chair like, I know exactly what you guys are going to do to us. I mean, this sweet little girl, she's so kind. She's not accepted. She knows that people make fun of her and bully her behind her back, but she's so kind. She's so sweet. She's somebody you want to root for. And obviously, she can't really see as well. And I am 1000% sure you assholes are going to use that against us as this movie unfolds. I don't know if I'm prepared for it. I'm probably going to be traumatized, but I know it's coming, so all right, I guess I'll sit back and we'll see how this unfolds. So shortly after this, Piper and Andy then find their dad dead in the shower. A very important moment in the movie, obviously, and it will tie into some important things that we see later on in the movie as well. So just another thing, like these kids seem so nice and so sweet. They love each other so much, even though they're step siblings. And another just heart-wrenching moment, you want these kids to get a win. But they, because Andy is not yet 18, when Andy's 18, they talk about he wants to have guardianship over Piper once he gets 18. But for the time being, he's got a few months to go. They have to go into foster care. So they move in with their new foster parent, this lady named Laura, who right off the bat, your spidey senses are tingling. This lady seems a little bit unhinged, not only because she has a dog, stuffed in her kitchen living room area. Kind of weird, but not necessarily means that she's a serial killer or anything like that. But there's also just other stuff going on right away. And I think Danny and Michael did a great job portraying all of that. Just like the gaslighting, the lack of privacy Laura is giving Andy. She's clearly kind of honing in on Piper for some reason. And I'm curious as to why. So immediately I can tell they're building this villain. I can tell that this woman is going to get more and more unhinged. We're going to get to know her more and more and more. She's going to start to target Andy more and more and more. And I think they do a really good job creating her as a villain, a character that I absolutely hate throughout this entire movie to my core. Even if she doesn't do the horrible shit at the end of the movie, even just the weird stuff and how she manipulates and mistreats the kids early in the movie, that just makes me dislike her. And especially all the crazy stuff she does later on, it makes me want to see her get a horrific death that is very, very satisfying. Unfortunately, we don't really get that with her death. Yeah, she's going to get, a pretty miserable rest of her life, which we'll talk about in just a minute, but that was kind of a missed opportunity in my opinion. They could have really gone for something crazy with her. I get why they didn't, but still, for me, bit of a letdown for me. There's also this decent mystery that I think they do a good job kind of portraying on the screen. It's like, what is Laura's true intentions here? There's this other kid, it's supposed to be a foster kid that we think right off the bat clearly is not as the movie goes along, but he's there too. What's wrong with him? He's not speaking. There clearly seems like there's something going on. Is it abuse? What is it? What's going on with this shed? Why does this kid keep going out there and doing weird things? But at the same time, as this is starting to happen in the middle of the movie, it kind of just feels like I'm watching Speak No Evil, if you guys have seen that movie, which is definitely where a lot of the stuff in the movie starts to feel recycled to me. I mean, both movies have a young boy who can't talk, clearly kind of seems like they might have been abducted, and then also have like this just weird motherly type of figure. I don't know. I immediately noticed just a ton of parallels between those two movies in this part of the movie. Also, if you're a fan of Rosemary's Baby from 1968 like I am, you're going to also notice a lot of similarities between these two movies, and mainly just the sheer amount of gaslighting that happens in both of these movies, which is a trope, not only just in the horror genre, but really in any movie. A movie like What About Bob? There are so many movies where gaslighting and manipulation is so effective, and I really enjoy it, and I think it will always be effective. I think it's a trope that works from generation to generation. I feel like this stuff has probably been happening ever since the beginning of mankind, and I think they do a good job of that in this movie, portraying that, how it all unfolds, making you hate the villain, making you root for the characters, making you just want to shake the characters and tell them what you have seen, but obviously you can't, so you just got to sit in your chair, frustrated as all hell. But yeah, they do a pretty good job, portraying that throughout the movie. I mean, yeah, there is some pretty crazy gaslighting that does go down in this movie, which makes you just hate Laura more and more and more. She is starting to trick Andy into kind of thinking that he's genuinely going crazy or something is going on with him, especially after his dad passing away and all of that. I mean, she's literally at one point in this movie pissing into a measuring cup and then in the middle of the night pouring it on him to make it look like he's peeing himself. He's 17 years old. And at one point she even sprays herself with like his Axe body spray, and then she goes into Piper's room, punches Piper right in the face. It kind of looks like her eye like collapses a little bit, like her eye is like an inflatable balloon. But anyways, that's a tangent. But still, obviously framing Andy, Piper then starts to think it was Andy too, and is starting to think that Andy might be jealous of how close Piper and Laura are getting, and maybe he's just kind of feeling a little bit left out. But also at the same time, you can just see like the inner struggle with Andy. Like, this kid is only 17, man, but this kid is resilient. And like I said, the actor playing it, such a damn good job in this movie. But just that inner struggle, like he's starting to crack a little bit, but he's also keeping it together. He is really like tempted to lose his anger and just beat the living shit out of this lady, but he doesn't. We get that moment like when she's pinned up against the wall and he punches through the wall, and then Laura, obviously more manipulation there with Piper, starts to kind of scream like he actually hit her, because then she will think that because she can't see. But just more of that stuff. And Andy does a great job keeping it together. But yeah, I think they do a good job with just the gaslighting in general. Like I mentioned a second ago, a little exaggerated at times, but still overall pretty good. And yes, of course, this movie's got violence. It's got blood, guts, and gore. It's got all of that. Hell, even at one point in the movie, it shows us the corpse of a child. But with that said, arguably the most sinister part in this entire movie is from Laura, who was a therapist for literally decades and is kind of expertly using these poor kids, man, their trauma, their PTSD, even just their innocence of being minors against them, and making it easier using that to manipulate them more and more and more. There's just something about that just gives me just a yucky, just nasty feeling. Like towards the end of the movie with Piper. Piper knows that she's different. She knows that she's been made fun of pretty much her entire life. And Laura also knows that. So she lures her in with this undeniable, really, sense of like belonging and friendship and love and acceptance. It's just fucked up, man. And kind of like in Talk to Me, how I feel like an entire movie could just be made about this hand, where it came from, who made it, all of that. Very similar to that, in this movie, we see these tapes, which I believe do have some Russian writing. I think at some point they're speaking Russian or something over in Eastern Europe. But these tapes, it's kind of similar. We don't get any backstory on them at all, where they came from, who made it, how she got it. So it's like ambiguous enough, and definitely after leaving the theater is something that I think about. I have thought about just kind of the origin of this, and I want to find out more, which I think they did a good job of in this movie. So in speaking of the tapes, towards the end of the movie, we not only find out a little bit more of what's going on with these tapes, what's going on with Ollie, why the movie is called Bring Her Back. And we find out that Laura is using the stuff that she sees in these tapes. And what's interesting, well, that she sees in these tapes to try to bring her dead daughter back, who tragically, we see from some flashbacks, died in her swimming pool. So we start to see what's also interesting about that too is, and I think this was effective as well, is they make it seem like Laura doesn't really know what she's doing. She has to watch these tapes, rewind them, kind of just piece together the clues on her own. Like she hasn't been mentored or anything like that. It's almost like she just discovered these tapes, or somebody that she came across kind of was like, here you go, good luck, figure it out, but this might help you bring back your daughter. But yeah, her goal here is to use the rituals, the things that we're seeing in these tapes. They're clearly sacrificing people. There's clearly like demonic rituals going on. But she wants to use these things and use the people that she's kidnapped, Ollie and Piper, basically, that she's kidnapped at this point, and then put her daughter's soul eventually into Piper. And clearly we can see in these tapes, a part of the process is essentially cannibalism. There's a moment that we see in the tapes where it says, consume the old body, and we see somebody eating one of the bodies. And then it tells us about like purging the soul into a new body and stuff like that. It clearly seems like they're transferring the soul over. We see somebody in the tape kind of like crying, but it's like tears of joy as they see this person almost resurrected in front of them, and they hold them. So you're like, oh shit, like this is starting to get pretty damn crazy. And things do get pretty wild at the end. And like I said, it's not all stuff that I haven't seen before or anything like that. But regardless of that, I mean, there's something to be said about my heart rate. I mean, I feel like was probably pretty damn high for like 30 minutes straight. Now, I don't have an Apple Watch, but I would imagine if I did, Siri on my watch would have probably been like, Matt, great job on your workout this afternoon. So Laura at one point in the movie comes home, and Ollie is this kid who's kind of like a vessel that she's going to use to transfer her daughter's soul eventually into Piper. Originally, I'm sure she wasn't sure who she was going to transfer it to, but she's decided that Piper is perfect and just is the perfect vessel for her daughter's soul in a way. And at this point, man, this is kind of a crazy scene, and I think it was pulled off well with some great effects. And this kid, Ollie, she comes home and is just devouring everything. He's basically like this demon at this point. Looks creepy as hell. He's all beat up. He's bloody and he's nasty, and he is tearing this house apart and eating everything. I mean, he even attacks Laura, bites a piece of her arm off, which plays into a pivotal moment later on in the movie. But what's funny about this moment too is it reminds me again, I can see some crazy gore, people losing limbs, all kinds of stuff. But a moment like when Ollie is chewing on the countertop in the kitchen, there's something about that. It's like nails on a chalkboard. It makes me squirm so bad. Small tangent too. Speaking of Ollie, I feel like it's a little bit unrealistic for a character like Lori, who I feel like is pretty smart overall, pretty calculated, that she just kind of lets Ollie roam the house on a regular basis. I feel like a more realistic approach to that angle of the story is he doesn't have a traditional room in the house. Either she keeps him in the basement or she keeps him in the shed, and her excuse is, I don't have any more room left. One of the rooms got converted into something, or there's renovations going on, something like that. That's an easy excuse, but it's got to be one of those situations where, if somebody does show up, this kid is obviously missing. She will easily just be able to tuck him away so nobody knows. The kid also walks around a lot in the backyard, and it looks like she has some acreage as well. But I feel like somebody might ask questions. I get she's probably well known as a therapist who is a foster parent and all that kind of stuff. I get that. So probably just like, oh, she has another kid. But still, I feel like he's just all over the place. People would start asking some questions. And the end of this movie, I do think is solid. Like I kind of mentioned earlier, I don't feel like it's anything groundbreaking or all that unique or anything like that. I feel like I knew exactly what was going to happen. I was hoping they were going to throw some more curveballs, but it all played out pretty much exactly how I was expecting it. It's this classic story, essentially, of this manipulative, evil person who has completely lost it at this point, and they will do virtually anything to try to overcome their grief, but they just lost it. They want to bring back their child any way possible. Early in the movie, they're more calculated, but now they've just pedaled to the metal. Like, they are completely unhinged at this point. So they start to get sloppy. They start to make some mistakes. And that's what happens. And while all this is happening, Andy rushes to the child services place to tell the lady working there, the cops or whoever he can get to come over to the house, like, dude, come over here. I need your help. I know you don't believe me, but just come over and see. So she frantically cleans up all the blood, cleans up the house. And this lady comes in and just starts looking around. And she's like, oh, yeah, no problem. They've been friends. We find out for like 20 years because apparently she was a therapist there for like 20 years as well. So you're like, okay, damn it. Like, that's not great. They're not going to believe that she's unhinged. She even gives us that line about like, oh, she would never do anything to a child. And you're just like, damn, dude, if you could only see what's going on. And like I said, it's kind of standard stuff here. So the woman is like, all right, job's done. I'm going to leave. Have a great day. Great to see you. And then wait just a minute. She notices that she's bleeding and she's like, hold on, everything seemed okay. But what's up with that? And then it starts to snowball and snowball. Laura probably not doing too well. She's probably lost a lot of blood and is just overall not feeling great. Laura starts to show a little bit more how unhinged she is. And she hears Andy yelling off in the distance because Andy decided to go and finally check to see what's in this shed. And again, this is all stuff I feel like I've seen before. I'm like, okay, obviously, this old woman is going to get brutally killed in some sort of a way or knocked out or whatever the hell is going to happen. That clearly would happen. But, regardless of it not being surprising, I still did think it was a holy shit moment as Andy and this lady are rushing to their car to go and do their next move, basically. And wham, this lady gets brutally ran over by Laura, which is a crazy, brutal kill, which I think they pulled off really well, but then also leads us into easily one of the most heartbreaking moments of this entire movie. And yeah, I think the directors, Danny and Michael, did a really good job, honestly, of breaking our hearts here. This is a moment in the movie, without question, that you're either going to really think it was pulled off effectively, which makes you think, okay, I respect the way that they pulled this off. I don't love it. Obviously, it's a terrible moment, but I respect how they pulled it off because in the end, it's not real. It's a movie. Or you're going to be like, I hate this. This is so depressing, so sad. Why did they do this to this character? This is ripping my soul out. And what happens here, and like I said, they made it very effective. Everything when that woman gets ran over happens really, really quickly, so you can't really tell what happened to Andy. But then we see Andy laying on the ground, clearly wounded, really, really hurt, laying in a puddle because at this point it is raining and his face is above the puddle. He's just kind of laying there. I don't know if he's paralyzed or just in a shit ton of pain, obviously, but he can't move. And Laura just goes on over, gently touches his head and leans his head over to the side and drowns him in the puddle. They just do it. They just kill this poor kid who I was rooting for throughout this entire movie, a character that I think was incredible. The actor was incredible, and just his character I was rooting for every step of the way in this movie, which I'm sure most of you were as well, but a heartbreaking moment without question, and Piper also is not there. They are the only people that really love each other. They're the last people for each other on this planet. And now one of them is gone. And okay, yeah, after Andy dies, Laura goes up and picks up Piper from this activity that she's doing. They go back to the house And Piper is starting to wonder and feel like something weird is going on here. And Piper eventually realizes that Laura is not who she is, and she bolts. She tries to get out of here. He ends up in the bathroom, and there's somebody laying on the ground in the bathroom. And it's just like the moment with her dad. And she goes down there, man. In this moment, very, very heartbreaking as she's kind of just feeling around to see who it is. And she feels Andy's braces. And Piper's just like, Andy, come on, Andy, come on, Andy, grapefruit, which was like their safe word, the word that they just had to have complete honesty about when they used that word. She's saying it over and over and over again. And she's like laying on top of him, saying she's sorry and all that, because she's now obviously realizing that he was right this entire time. So regardless of the fact that a lot of this stuff happening, especially at the end of the movie, is stuff I could see coming, it was very, very predictable. I still think moments like this, man, they pulled it off really, really well. And of course, laid the foundation earlier in the movie to create these characters that we have to root for. We really, really do. So when they use that against us, it's gonna hurt. Then after this, it kind of all comes to a head and Laura just spills the beans and tells Piper exactly what she wants to do. Hey, I want to put the soul of my daughter into you. I'm gonna go and drown you in the pool, the same place where my daughter died. And then we kind of get like a little bit of a Friday the 13th moment as well. How she's trying to drown Piper, but Piper says, Mom, 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 which like really, really distracts her. Kind of like Jason Voorhees, in a movie like Friday the 13th Part 2, when they use the sweater and use some other things to remind Jason of his mom, just to give him enough time to get out like Piper does. So Piper eventually gets out, kind of pushes her off, pushes this demon Ollie kid to the side, and eventually makes her way outside of the white markings around the house. And yeah, it looks like she's free. And at this point in the movie, the movie is just about to end, but I think it's really effective in the fact of I have basically just started my personal mourning process for Andy and for Piper's life that she had before. Basically, this is now her story. Andy's not coming back. He's not a superhero. He's a human in this movie. This kid who was going to be her literal guardian, has always kind of been her guardian in a sense, has always looked after her. They have these safe words together, is the only person, it seems like, that truly, truly loves her and looks after her, is now gone. So Piper runs off, gets picked up on the road, something we've seen obviously a million times in movies before. This traumatized person picked up by some citizens, that way they can take her to the police or wherever she needs to go. And another moment that will absolutely just pull on your heartstrings is when we cut to Piper. She's in the car waiting for a train, and they play the voiceover from the voicemail from Andy earlier in the movie saying, I love you, grapefruit. And then Piper, she can't see too well, but it seems like she definitely can see a little something, and she can definitely hear it. She sees a plane fly up into the distance, tying in that thing that Andy said earlier in the movie about their dad, how planes basically carry their souls, the souls of the people who have passed away, up to heaven, essentially. So it just ties back into that. And I'm sure some of you were probably choking up during this moment. And yeah, like I mentioned a second ago, a missed opportunity, in my opinion, with Laura. I would have loved to see just like a cool, like, fuck yeah, kind of a moment. Laura getting like brutally killed in some sort of a way, but also at the same time, you kind of do want to see her rot in jail, which it does seem like she's going to, because the cops end up finding her floating with her daughter's corpse in the pool. It seems like she's probably alive, so she's probably going to get arrested and go through that whole ordeal as well. And we do get a bit of a happy ending too with the character of Ollie. He goes across the white line, which doesn't end up killing him. It's just something that kind of breaks the curse. I wasn't 100% sure about that, if it would kill him or not, but it seems to break the curse. He's now talking. He's now starting to act like himself. He knows his name when the cops find him in the woods. So he will probably, of course, be reunited with his family again. So that's a win. That's kind of cool. And now a big part of me does kind of feel very similar to the girl who was sitting a few seats down from me in the movie theater. Probably felt as soon as the credits started to roll, she just stood up and was like, all right, I'm done. I'm done with this. But also at the same time, a part of me does feel that although the first half of the movie, not a lot really happens, it is scripted and acted really well. And the second half, it's similar. The story, I feel like, isn't all that unique, and I definitely saw a lot of the breadcrumbs, hell, most of the breadcrumbs about what was going to happen at the end of the movie. But with that said, the acting and also the effects at the end of the movie, I thought were really well done. But yeah, Bring Her Back, I mean, overall, a very depressing, sad movie. I mean, this is not a movie for everyone by any means. I mean, you kind of have to be in the right headspace to even get through this movie. Probably, I'm sure if some of this trauma really triggers for you, that this movie is probably going to really piss you off and make you just feel really, really icky inside. And yeah, I feel like this movie is executed pretty well. It looks beautiful. The acting is incredible, like I said, once again, but still at that same time, it just feels like they kind of copied and pasted so many different bleak and sad things that we've seen in iconic movies before this and just threw it into this movie. Very predictable, very recycled, but at the same time, dude, props to all of the actors in this movie. I really want to see all of you in another movie very, very soon. But there you go, guys. That is my review of Bring Her Back. We made it through it, all right? If you want some more videos from me right now, go ahead and check out one of these videos next to me. I promise they will be way less depressing than Bring Her Back. I promise. But if you don't want to miss future videos as well, make sure you subscribe and turn on those notifications. Also, all of my social media links will be down below in the description. If you guys enjoyed this review, please leave a like on it. It really does help this video out a lot. But thanks so much for watching, everybody. You could do a lot of things with your time in life right now, and you chose to watch my video. That's pretty damn cool. So thank you so much for that. My name is Matt, though, and I will talk to you in the next one.